All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for what will be a very interesting and exciting presentation from IGC Pharma. IGC Pharma is a clinical stage biotech and AI company. They're focused on developing innovative solutions for Alzheimer's. And the company's lead therapeutic candidate is currently advancing through a phase 2 clinical trial targeting agitation in Alzheimer's disease, which is a significant unmet need affecting millions of patients worldwide. Several anticipated clinical and operational milestones are expected in the coming months, and IGC Pharma is positioned at the intersection of biotech, artificial intelligence, as well as one of healthcare's largest and fastest growing markets. Just a couple of key highlights about the company and the opportunity. The phase 2 clinical trial is nearing completion. There's multiple anticipated catalysts over the next 4 to 9 months. They are addressing a significant unmet need in a very large market, Alzheimer's. The lead therapeutic candidate is designed to improve on the limitations of the current treatment options. The company's leveraging AI, so the AI-powered healthcare platform creates additional growth opportunities beyond therapeutics. And the company, like I said earlier, is positioned at the intersection of biotech, AI, and aging-related healthcare innovation. Finally, the company is a publicly traded company with a current valuation significantly below comparable Alzheimer's-focused biotech companies. And today we're thrilled to be joined by CEO Ram Mukunda, who I've known for over 20 years. And Ram, we really appreciate your coming on and sharing this awesome opportunity with our group here. So take it away.
Thank you, everyone. This is Claudia Grimaldi, and I'm Ram Mukunda. I'm the CEO. She's the Vice President and CFO. We have a presentation here that we'd like to go through, and it's focused mostly on the single drug that is currently in phase 2. So we're not really going to talk about all the other stuff that Tien mentioned.
And everything we are going to talk about today, guys, is public information. We want to have that very clear.
Right. So you don't have to worry about us disclosing anything that's not public. We are a public company, as Tien mentioned. I'm trying to figure out how to advance the slides here.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So we are, as Tien mentioned, at the intersection of healthcare and AI. We primarily work on Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a devastating disease. Many of you might be very familiar with Alzheimer's and dementia. Some of you may have family members that you've cared for or that you've witnessed with this devastating disease. So we are a clinical stage pharmaceutical company. So clinical stage essentially means that we are at the stage where we've got a molecule that's in a phase that's already with the FDA and it's undergoing clinical trials. We've completed our phase 1 trial and we're currently in a phase 2, and the phase 2 should be completing in the next couple of months, and we are hoping, and that we believe will be, and I apologize for, I won't move my hands. So the phase 2 study is, we're almost done with the phase 2 study, and I'll show you what that means, and it tends to be a very big catalyst for the company. We're currently at a market cap of about $30 million, and the near-term catalyst, of course, is the completion of the phase 2 study and the top-line readout, which we believe creates a potential path to a 300 to 500 million peer re-rating of our valuation. Longer term, as I'll show you, the molecules and the combination that we're using is a potential disease-modifying and molecule, and that would be massive catalyst for the stock. And if we are successful in showing that, that's a $2 to $4 billion re-rating of the stock. So it's a massive opportunity in front of us, which I want to show you. The problem that we're addressing affects about 139 million people. These are the ones that are projected to live with dementia by 2050. Currently, there are 400 million people with Alzheimer's pathology in their brains. So it's a disease that affects a lot of people around the world. There is no cure for this disease. up to about 76% experience neuropsychiatric symptoms like agitation. And agitation is defined as physical or verbal aggression, restlessness, pacing. These impact the patient, and it makes it very difficult for caregivers to take care of these patients. Agitation drives early institutionalization, higher mortality, and there are studies that show it accelerates cognitive decline.
Well, our solution is IGC-81. This is a very interesting way we developed, and to make it easier for the caregivers to administer. It's a patent-protected liquid combination, and we are, as Ron mentioned, in phase 2. This is what we have, and you just get this solution from here twice a day, and you can administer it to the patient in the mouth because it's very hard for them to swallow. Sometimes it's hard for the caregiver to handle the person. So we make it very easy, like for a baby. And you can also put this solution into juice, into coffee, into
a glass of whatever.
And they can easily swallow it. So I think we made it very easy for the caregivers and the patients to get our IGC-81.
Yeah, this is very important as it distinguishes our medication from the others, which tend to be pills or injections.
Yes, who wants an injection when you have an agitated patient?
Right, exactly. I still can't figure out how to, oh, there we go. So currently we're in a phase 2 study. And for those of you who might be familiar with the pharmaceutical process, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is pretty much how the progression. And prior to that is all the preclinical work, including the toxicology studies, the studies in animal models, the studies on cell lines. All of that takes place before you go to a phase 1. So all of that was done at the University of South Florida. And we have an exclusive license from the University of South Florida for this medication. And at the end, they will get a royalty of 2.5% from the revenues.
And we have patent protection in Canada, in the US,
yes,
in Europe, and in other countries.
So it's completely patent protected. The dosing of this is expected to be completed in the next few months. So that gives us so 100% enrollment and top-line readout are near-term catalysts. Now, I will show you interim data from our phase 2 study a few slides later, and what you'll see is that our medication is fast-acting and it has an enormous effect size compared to placebo. There's very limited competition in this space. There's one drug that was approved in 2023. It's called brexpiprazole. It is an atypical antipsychotic. It comes with a black box warning, and it has some very severe side effects. And it's limited to, you can't use it on certain patients. There's another drug that was also approved very recently, in fact, last month. And that drug hasn't come to the market yet, but it will. But we have very, very strong results, and we can compete with both of these drugs very easily.
And what this does is validates the space in which we are. Meaning people do need medicines like ours to control and manage the patients and to make them feel better and have a better life. And also to the caregivers, right?
Exactly. That's absolutely correct. So we do have some slides that I want to show you. In our phase 1 study, what our drug did was to reduce neuropsychiatric symptoms. Neuropsychiatric symptoms are associated with the disease, and they include agitation, anxiety, depression, and also caregiver distress is something we measured. There's a scale called the NPI-12, and the inventor of that scale is one of our advisors. With dosing of once a day, it reduced neuropsychiatric symptoms from essentially a scale which measures it at 31 points to 14 points, so by 50%. At twice a day, it reduced it by 50 again. And at 3 times a day, it again reduced it by 50. So we've got very strong indication that it reduces overall neuropsychiatric symptoms. So what we did was we looked at this data and we analyzed it domain by domain. And specifically, we looked at agitation. And what we discovered is that it reduces agitation as well in phase 1. So we then went to a phase 2 specifically for agitation. And in that phase 2, we looked at interim data on the first 30 patients. And then we compared that data to the data that's published on the current drug that's being used as the current standard of care, which is brexpiprazole. So this graph is very interesting to look at because what this shows, the two black lines are, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the two black lines are essentially the existing drug. At week 4, there's no difference between placebo and the drug itself. At week 2, you look at the bottom scale here, 2, 4, 6, 8. At week 2, the drug, brexpiprazole, has no effect. It doesn't have an effect until week 6. And you see that the effect size is fairly small. But this is approved. Our drug, on the other hand, our placebo is the turquoise color here, which tracks their placebo. And our drug in 2 weeks has a massive difference between placebo and the active group. So our drug is much, much, much faster acting with a significantly larger effect size. So in terms of differentiating in the market, it's an easy sell. If you've got a patient in a nursing home that's agitated, you want to wait 6 weeks for something to act, or do you want something that acts significantly faster? Now, we also have data between 0 and 2. We're going to be analyzing that, but we think that the effect, that the action is immediate, within a day or so. So faster acting, larger effect size, and we intend to price this significantly lower than Brex, as I'll show you. Now, there's another domain that we looked at during phase 2, during the interim results. And what we're finding is that sleep disturbance, which affects 50 to 60% of Alzheimer's patients, they don't sleep well at night. That we are able to also address that indication. So this drug seems to indicate both treat both agitation as well as sleep disturbance. And these are two separate indications. Call it 2 shots on goal, if you will.
And who doesn't want to be able to sleep at night while the person that you're caring for is also sleeping well? That's exactly right. If you have someone that's waking up at night 3-4 times a day, it's trying to get out of the house, it creates a lot of stress on the caregiver. And so this is as much a story about the caregiver as it is about the patient. These essentially help the caregiver. There's another domain so these are 2 domains that are distinct indications in Alzheimer's that we can address with this drug. And no other drug can address this. The other 2 cannot address both of these. Again, easier sell when we go to market. So what does this market look like? There are currently 15 million people in North America and Europe diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The significantly larger number that are with essentially Alzheimer's-like pathology in their brains. So this 76% have agitation, that's 11 million. If we price this at $750, which is half the price of brexpiprazole. Brex is priced at $1,500. We're pricing it at half the price. A month.
And all we're saying is if we get just 3% adoption, that's a revenue of $3 billion. With 10% at the very right column, that's a revenue of $10 billion. Let's look at the 3%. Even if you get 1%, that's $1 billion. Even with 3 drugs, if you divide the revenue up, it's still a blockbuster drug. So the potential is enormous. The valuation bridge that I talked about, we're currently at 30 million, and there's a bridge to 300 to 500, which is a 10x for an investor today. If you look at these 4 companies that I have here, when they started their phase 2, they had valuations between 50 million for Cassava and 50 million for Axiom, 150 million for Avanex, and 200 million for Anovis. That's at the start of phase 2. At the end of their phase 2, when they showed positive results, their valuations jumped. Focus on the last column in this slide. The first one jumped 500 million. Second one jumped 2 billion, 750 million, 350 million. So when I say that we have a potential bridge between our current 30 million, which is in the range of that $50 million company, that the two $50 million companies here, to 300 to 500 million, we're basing that on what the market has rewarded in the past. We have a very strong executive management team. Some of these faces, some of these individuals, if you're from Virginia, you will recognize Jim Moran as a former congressman. You will recognize Terry McAuliffe, who's the former governor of Virginia. They're on our advisory board. So you'll recognize those names. We have a very strong team that's managing the
scientific side.
The scientific side. We have advisors on the scientific advisors. The individual that invented the NPI scale is one of our advisors.
And he's very recognized in the Alzheimer's space.
He's very well recognized in the Alzheimer's. We have other individuals in each of the different areas that we focus on.
Of our molecule.
That's correct. That's correct. So the second individual from the left, Dr. Chow, is the inventor of this formulation at the University of South Florida. He's one of our advisors as well. The individuals that actually manage our clinical trial, we have medical doctors, we have psychologists, PhDs in medicinal chemistry, neuroscientists. These are the individuals, and we have about 15 individuals managing the trial. So it's a pretty significant undertaking. So I just want to summarize. We're currently for our investors, we're currently at 30 million. Next 4 to 9 months, there's a bridge to 300 to 500 million valuation with positive results from our phase 2. So the risk that you're taking is that the phase 2 doesn't come out positive. I've shown you phase 1 results that show that it's going to be that potential positive. Phase 2 interim results that also show positive results. So we're very confident and very optimistic, of course, that the results will come out in phase 2 and they will look very, very strong. And that should give us that bridge from 30 million to 300 to 500 million re-rating for the company. Over the next 2 to 3 years, there's a potential to look at a 2 to 4 billion valuation. And that is a positive results from the medication being a disease-modifying therapy. We've seen very early indications in phase 2, but we've seen a lot of indication in preclinical, in both mouse models and on cell lines that show that the medication interferes with 2 of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's. And that is sort of the holy grail at the end of this tunnel. With something that can modify the disease, that would be enormous for both Alzheimer's patients, the industry, and of course for our company and our investors.
So we wanted first to tackle the symptoms so that we can get the patients to be manageable, right?
Exactly.
And the families to suffer less, the caregivers to be able to care for the patients. But we are also thinking on doing studies
Absolutely.
to determine the impact in reversing the pathology,
right.
Caring for, stop the Alzheimer's, manage the disease. So
that's a very good point, because I think what we've done is we've taken agitation and we're able to address that. We can get a drug to market very quickly. And then we will continue to look at the drug and to see whether it's a disease-modifying therapy. That's a much longer trial. The agitation trial is a 6-week trial. So as you saw, it impacts patients very quickly. So that's sort of the low-hanging fruit that we're going after initially. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. We're happy to answer questions. We're happy to, keep in touch, whatever you'd like. I'll turn this back to Tian and to Skylar.
Thank you so much, Ram. I'm going to have Skylar, our community manager, as you guys know, and she will be running the question and answer. I do want to invite everybody to either put your questions directly into the chat box, which we're seeing quite a few of, or you can privately direct message Skylar or myself, and if you want to be anonymous. Also, as a reminder, we will be putting up a confidential investor poll. So when Sky launches the poll, let's go for 100% participation as a goal. And we will keep all the results confidential. And basically, we're asking 4 questions. You're very, very interested, or you're interested, or you're not interested, but you know somebody, or you're not interested. Even if you're not interested, it'd be great for you to just indicate, so we can share those results with the company. And with that, let me turn things over for the question and answer to Sky.
Perfect. Thanks, Tian. Okay, yeah, we're going to get started. We have quite a few questions. First question is, could you tell us a little bit more about the raise and how much you're raising, etc.?
Okay, I was trying to figure out how to unmute it. So we're trying to raise about 2 to 3 million. And what the use of proceeds would be to accelerate this trial and get it done in the next few months. We're very close to the finish line, and we just want to make sure that we have enough cash to get it to the finish line, get it to the point where we can use some of that money for investor and for public relations, and make sure that the awareness is there, also to reach out to some institutional investors. So that's the plan right now. And there are 2 ways that you can invest. One, you can buy the stock directly. We're a publicly traded company. The symbol is IGC. We're trading between 25 and 30 cents. So you can buy the stock directly. That's one. 2, you can come to us and we can issue shares to you directly also. There is a very quick procedure. Claudia is an expert. She gets a piece of paper out to you, a document that you sign. You wire the money to us. We issue the shares to you. It goes into your account at Schwab or Ameritrade or anywhere. 2 different ways you can invest. But we are looking for investors. We're also looking to build a following for the company that understands what we're doing, is passionate about what we're doing, and will follow us and support us, into the future. And that's really why we brought, we sort of signed up with Tian. I've known him, as he said, for 20 years. And he's got a great following, and we'd like to present this opportunity to his investors group so we can also get that following.
Okay, great. The next question is, can you tell us a little bit more about the USF research, cell line work, and scaling for phase 3, and will you work with other Florida companies?
Other Florida companies? We don't work with other Florida companies, but we are on the AI side. We are working with Florida companies and Florida nonprofits. But the trial itself is also being run at USF, at the Bird Institute,
Yes.
which is the Institute for Dementia in Florida. So that's our affiliation. So it is being run there. The preclinical work that was done is very interesting.
You love that part.
I love that part. Yes, we didn't show you slides, but what they discovered is that this particular combination, it reduces or it interferes with one of the hallmarks, which is the plaque that builds up in your brain. So what's interesting about the disease is that there are 2 hallmarks. One is plaque that builds. And what is plaque? If my 2 hands are neurons, these 2 neurons connect with each other. That's how memory is built. Plaque is something that gets deposited between the 2 neurons, and it cuts off the communication. This starts 20 years before you see any Alzheimer's symptoms. And what USF discovered, what the research shows, is that it interferes with this buildup of plaque. So that's obviously a disease-modifying therapy. There's a second hallmark of Alzheimer's, and there's also a third, but let's talk about the second. The neuron itself dies from within. This interferes with that process also. And so the cell line research shows that it interferes with the hallmarks of Alzheimer's. So it's a disease-modifying therapy. Disease-modifying therapy, to take it to trial, is a much longer trial. You have to dose the individual for at least 6 months or a year to be able to show, with using PET scans, that there's a decrease in this plaque buildup. We intend to do that. The second thing that they did was that they looked at this with mouse models. In a genetically modified mouse model, it showed both these. It showed an improvement in memory by as much as 50%. So it's very exciting because the drug potentially can also increase or can increase memory. So that's something that we would test in a longer trial, but that's a separate trial. That's not this trial. This trial is very short. It's 6 weeks specifically for agitation. The trial I'm referring to is a disease-modifying trial that would be a year long. But we intend to launch that. We intend to file the protocol middle of next year.
Okay, great. The next question is kind of a three-part question, but the first one is, how much money do you need to get approval?
To get approval, we would need about $50 million.
Approval to sell in the market.
Approval to sell. And here's why. Phase 2 is 2 or 3 million, like I said. We'll get to end of phase 2. We'll announce the results. We'll use some of that money to reach out to institutional investors. But our plan really is a little bit different. If I can just share my screen again.
You are sharing already?
No. I can show you a slide that I can
You're still,
Am I still sharing the?
Yes, it looks awesome.
Yes.
Oh, very good. So take a look at this.
Presentation.
This slide sort of shows you what we would do after phase 2. Positive phase 2. Our first option is to sell the indication to a big pharma, and we have many examples of positive phase 2 results being sold, and they go for anywhere from 500 million to 3-4 billion. So that's sort of our first step, the first thing that we would do. The first potential. The second is at the very bottom, which is launch a second pivotal trial, and that trial would take between 30 and 50 million. We also have all these interim trials that we could do. We have a disease-modifying trial, sleep, insomnia. We could look at orphan indications as well within the AD space, within the Alzheimer's space. So there's many different directions we can go in. And the fact that we would need that much money for a disease-modifying trial is not something that should overly complicate it, overly worry any of our people, any of our investors, because we would find potential partners for that.
Okay, great. And then the other part of that question is, how much is phase 3 and what is the quarterly burn?
How much is phase 3?
On the quarterly burn.
You mean how much money or?
Yes, I believe that is the question.
So phase 3 is about maybe 400 patients. We would have to negotiate with the FDA to see how many patients they would require us to do. Call it 400 million. I can probably get that trial done given the experience that we have with phase 2, all the build up to phase 2, the marketing plans that we have, the advertising plans that we have on Facebook and other social media. We know how to recruit patients. We also know how to, we also have a large database of trial sites that can do this trial. So I think that trial would take about 18 months. And we would be in a position to file with the FDA. We would be in a position to file for commercialization. So in terms of the money, I sort of mentioned the amount of money. What's the second part?
The next part is what is your quarterly burn?
So we have enough money right now. We burn about $400,000 a month. So it's a fairly small burn compared to what a phase 2 burn would look like. And a large part of that is because we have a lot of our scientists, a lot of our management of the trial is an internal CRO that we've already built. And these individuals are in India, they're in Colombia, South America. They're highly qualified, and that's why our burn rate is significantly less than what a typical burn would look like for a phase 2 trial.
Yes, without
I'd say it's probably
sacrificing
1/3.
exactly without sacrificing the quality, we are trying to manage the administrative costs, and that's why we are using places like India or Colombia to do the administrative
And it's all internally built. It's not outsourced. So our burn rate is significantly lower than what a phase 2 burn would look like.
Okay. And we are going to continue with the Q&A. I'm just going to put up a poll right now. This is the poll that Tien was talking about earlier in the meeting. We really want to go for 100% participation. Just let us know where you're at. That really helps us, helps the team. Even if not interested, let us know so we don't keep reaching out. I'll leave that poll up for a few minutes. But once again, please take the time to fill that out for us. The next question is, where is the current trial taking place?
Do we have a slide?
No apologies.
Okay.
We can just mention.
We have fantastic sites that are doing the trial. It is 100% I'd say 95% of the trial is being done on the East Coast of the US, and the other 5% is in Canada. So it's pretty much US and Canada. In Canada, we have McGill University, we have the University of Toronto, McMaster University, all doing the trial. In the US, we have Brown University doing it. We have MedStar here in in Maryland. We have 3 at Georgetown. We have 2 other MedStar sites. We have Dent. We have Miami Jewish in Florida. We have University of South Florida, as I mentioned. Yes. They're doing the trial. So we've got very, very strong sites. Mount Sinai in Canada, New York is doing the trial. And so that's where the trial is being run. It's mostly East Coast of the US.
Okay, next question is this meant for early stages? I'm not sure if this was talked about or not, but are the trials for various stages of testing, like early, mid, and late? And then also, does this bridge into dementia?
This is a great question. That's a very, very good question. Agitation itself impacts moderate to severe Alzheimer's. Early Alzheimer's there's some research now coming out that agitation and neuropsychiatric symptoms do start very early, but they're not detected by the doctors because they're dismissed. So, but let's talk about our trial. Our trial is moderate and beyond. So that's where we're testing it, because that's where you see the agitation. As the neuropsychiatric symptoms sort of accelerate as dementia sets in. So our patients, almost all of them, suffer from dementia. To answer the question, does it have an impact on dementia itself? We don't know, but the preclinical indications are that it would. And so the second trial that I'm talking about, not a continuation of the agitation, but post-agitation, when we look at disease-modifying indications, that would address dementia caused by Alzheimer's. We're not looking at dementia from, say, Parkinson's, or from Lewy body, or from frontal dementia. So we're not looking at those dementias. We're looking at the majority of dementia is caused by Alzheimer's, like 76%, or say 80% of dementia is caused by Alzheimer's. So that's what we're looking at. currently.
Okay. Another person they want to clarify that this is a cannabinoid-based drug, and then what are the benefits of this drug versus simply using THC or CBD applications that are currently legal in the States?
Very interesting question, and it's a very interesting question. There is a trial that was run by Hopkins, and that trial looked only at THC. And what they found in the trial was that it did not reduce agitation. So THC by itself,
Or cannabis by itself.
or cannabis by itself, which means CBD, THC, any of that, does not seem to reduce agitation. Our combination therapy reduces agitation. So there is a synergy between the active pharmaceutical ingredients that we use. So dronabinol is one of them, and dronabinol is essentially THC, but it's approved by the FDA. So it's the combination. There's something else also going on. What USF discovered and what they got the patent for is that it is microdosing that seems to work. Anything beyond microdosing creates a lot of risk for an Alzheimer's patient. You have the risk that the individual may fall and break something. That's the last thing you need on someone who's 75 years old or 80 years old. So there is that danger. Would I give my grandmother THC? I would not. Enormous risk of falling. You don't want to break someone's, you don't want a fracture when you're 80 years old. So that's one thing. Second is it's microdosing, and it's the synergistic effect between the two active ingredients that seems to work. And that's why it's patented.
And remember, the dosing has to be stable. It has to be the same.
That's the other thing.
You cannot just go and buy a joint, because some people have asked that. You cannot go and buy a joint and give it to your parents because you don't know what it contains. You don't know what the dosing. You don't know.
Right.
You don't have the combination therapy that our medicine have.
Right.
So I think
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. What Claudia is referring to is very, very important, because you need replicability, right? You need a pharmaceutical that can be repeated. You take it once, you take it the second time, third time, fourth time.
it's the same.
It's exactly the same medication.
Correct.
And that's what the FDA allows you to do. And that's the process that we're going through. But that's a great question.
Okay. What are the side effects of the molecule?
The current side effects that we are observing is a few patients were dizzy at the very first dose. And so what we did, we found that in phase 1, and it self-resolved within an hour. So what we've done is the first dosing is at night. So we switched from phase 1, it was in the morning. And when we saw this, we switched it to first dosing is at night.
So the patient is already in bed, right?
And the patient goes to sleep. Second day of dosing is also at night. So we do once a day for 2 days, and then we go to twice a day. So our side effects are very, very minimal compared to antipsychotics. That's your comparison.
Compared to death, when you have a black box warning.
A black box warning is like, you smoke too many cigarettes and you have the potential of lung cancer. That's a box warning.
You will die from the medicine.
You could potentially die from side effects. But in our case, it's very, very, the side effects are very minimal.
Okay. For the directly issued shares, what will the pricing be?
What we would like to price it at is the closing price of the previous day.
Okay.
Okay, we're not offering a discount to market.
Okay. This is a little bit of the same question, just confirming. It says, if we buy shares directly with IGC, at what rate are you selling the shares for?
So currently, I think we're selling it at about 27 to...
If you buy today, it would be yesterday's closing price.
So it's at a fixed price. If you go into the market, you're going to buy it at 27, 28, 29, 30, depending on how much you're buying, it might go up, but we would sell it to you at one price.
Okay. What is the NPR of this investment?
NPR.
Yes.
Net present, what?
Return and
Return?
Yeah.
So if they're
Let's see if
referring
that person can clarify. Let me see. The net profit ratio, I would assume.
net profit ratio, it's not a.
I'll let that person clarify. We'll come back to it.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
I
let me just say that if they're referring to net present or a net return,
net profit ratio, I guess.
right? What we're saying is that we think it's a 10x. Okay, so it's a 5 to 10x short term next 6 months. That's what we think it is.
Could be net present
But it's not
return.
a project like a real estate project to say what's the IRR or what's the NPR. That's sort of
Okay, yes, they clarified and said net present value or return.
Yes.
Okay, so the return we think is a 5 to 10x, next 6 months, based on what I've shown you and based on what the market has rewarded positive phase 2s.
Okay. The next question is the overall question is, are you using AI in any of your company right now? How does AI come into the picture?
I moved the entire company to AI. How long ago? A year ago. A year ago. So everything we do is AI. We do all our benchmarking with AI. We look at our clinical trials using AI. We do all the analysis of the trial data. In phase 3, we would use AI to even screen patients. We've built agentic models. We work with the ADDI, which is the Alzheimer's Disease Data Initiative. We were a top 10 pick by them. It's funded by the Gates Ventures and Gates Foundation. They were very close to them. We're deploying an Alzheimer's harmonization model on their platform and we're displaying and we're showing it at the AAIC, which is the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in July in London. It's in the second week of July. So we do a lot of work with AI, and we're actually going to be presenting that model and also showcasing it on their workbench. And we hope to monetize that very quickly.
Okay. Is the product endorsed by any medical organizations or boards?
That's a good question. So we would seek to get that kind of endorsement through grants by the NIH, by other associations like the ALZ, Alzheimer's Association, and many of the others. We know them. We're in touch with them. We've spoken to them, but all of them are waiting for the end of phase 2. So once we get the phase 2 readout, we will reach back to them, and that's when we would be able to seek that. It's a little premature to get their backing at this point.
Okay. Does it matter the stage of Alzheimer's or dementia for efficacy?
Does it what?
Does it matter the stage in which you are in Alzheimer's for the efficacy?
Right. So ideally, and this is longer term, ideally, this would be a prophylactic. There are 400 million people with Alzheimer's pathology in their brain today.
Not diagnosed yet.
Undiagnosed. Not diagnosed with Alzheimer's because it takes 20 years with that pathology to develop the symptoms. So ideally, we would want this to be a prophylactic. It's mild. It works. If we were able to show that it works on the two hallmarks, this becomes a prophylactic. It's a longer-term dream of ours. We're moving towards that. But currently, what we're testing it on is moderate Alzheimer's, moderate and severe Alzheimer's. We're looking at this drug to reduce agitation in Alzheimer's very quickly, fast-acting today. Many Alzheimer's patients, very difficult to take care of. They develop these symptoms. They have to be put in a nursing home. They have to be put in, in a impaired living institution. And you have an agitated patient in an institution. You want a drug that's not an antipsychotic, that doesn't have box warnings, that doesn't put them to sleep, and doesn't make them, catatonic. This is our drug. So that's the problem that we are addressing today. And our solution is our drug, fast-acting drug on those symptoms today. But as we move forward, we want to address this issue of the 400 million people. We've also built an Alzheimer's foundation model using AI. And that model, which is patent pending, is a model that identifies those 400 million people without using PET scans, without using a lot of the scans that are currently that you have to use to identify those patients. So the combination of our drug and this AI platform is sort of our solution in the future for those 400 million people that have Alzheimer's pathology in their brain.
Okay. The next question is, without a discount, how do you intend to attract direct investment to help you fund your research?
That's a good question. If the investment is large enough, we will consider a discount to market. Absolutely. We're very open to it. We're open to a conversation, but but if it's sizable, we will give you a discount today.
Okay. Where can we get the samples of the medicine to try on our patients with the approval of primary physician and family member with power of attorney?
You can't. You have to be enrolled in the trial.
Okay. Next question is, do you have a manufacturing and distribution plan?
So we have a very good manufacturing and distribution plan. In fact, we had our own. It is as we mentioned, cannabinoid therapy. We actually have a lot of experience with cannabinoids. We know how to grow. We know how to extract. We know how to purify. We know how to process. Because in order to get to that very, very, very fine dronabinol level, you have to know all this. We've done all of this, and we had a manufacturing plant on the West Coast. We actually gave that up, and we're focusing on the trial. But we've partnered with companies that can scale this very easily. So we're partnered with 2 companies in Colombia. And the reason I point to Claudia is because she's Colombian, and this is what she's done is she's set up all of this in Colombia. She's a psychologist by training, and so she set up the manufacturing. She set up the actual purification, set up the bottling, the logistics to get it from Colombia to Miami, and then the distribution from there to all the centers. So all that is already set up. We're set up for phase 3. We're set up for commercialization. We're set up for the scaling.
Okay. Do you have any other drugs or technologies in the pipeline?
We have 5 other drugs in the pipeline, 5 other platforms in the pipeline for Alzheimer's. They're preclinical. Our model is to go to universities, look at the research that they've done, and license that technology. We did that with USF. We've done that with another university in India, where they had 3 molecules that shows fantastic results, all preclinical, both in mouse models and also in preclinical cell data. So that's the molecules that we've actually taken And that's what we are progressing through the FDA process. Our expertise is to take preclinical and take it through to commercialization. And IGC 81, the one from South Florida, is the University of South Florida, is our most advanced. And that's going to give you the most near-term inflection with where we are today.
Okay. How do patients sign up for the clinical trial?
So we have on Facebook and on our website, we've developed this platform where if you can go in and put in your zip code, and it'll give you where your closest site is. So if you live, let's say in McLean, Virginia, you put in your zip code, it tells you your closest site might be Georgetown or might be another site in Maryland. So we've developed that. And then once you do that, we will reach out to you. Once you fill out the paperwork on the website, or if you see our Facebook ad, we then reach out to you and we explain the trial. We send you emails. We educate you on the trial, tell you what's involved. And then we then send that information to the site. The site then calls you and you can enroll for the trial. Obviously, there are 3 visits. There's the initial visit for the baseline. There's a visit at week 2. Week 4 is online, or you can visit. And then there's the end of trial at week 6. So we've made it very manageable. We pay for your Uber, we pay for your Lyft, we give you a stipend, we pay for your lunch and breakfast when you're there. So we reimburse you for all your expenses. It's at 0 cost to the patient.
Okay. Aside from the possibility of increasing the IGC stock price, how does buying your stock in the market help you in fundraising?
So buying the stock in the open market, what it does, it helps us, because what we're trying to do is get support behind the stock. We're looking for investors that buy the stock and will hold the stock. Maybe trade some of it out when we get the phase 2 results, but we'll also hold it to phase 3 or to a partnership, or when we can get to that $2-3 billion valuation. That's what we're looking for. So that's part of this presentation, is to encourage people to buy our stock and to get that follow-up, for us to develop that following.
Okay. In terms of manufacturing, is the factory in Colombia FDA certified to produce drugs for the US market?
So anything you do with an FDA trial has to be GMP. So yes, they're completely certified. And any commercialization, phase 3, has to be FDA inspected and certified. And yes, they are.
Okay. Going back to the efficacy for each stage of dementia or Alzheimer's, this person says, how do you get the word out to get tested to educate consumers to pursue the drug, or is it preferable to have large pharma buy it out and do that on your behalf?
It is preferable to have large pharma buy it and do it on our behalf. It is not that easy to go out and sell a drug, because the good thing is that it's limited competition. So you might see TV ads for Brexpiprazole, for example. So there are a couple of things that we've thought through. One is we could do it online. Amazon has a pharmacy. Trump has a pharmacy called Trump RX. There is Walmart has a pharmacy online. So one is to get it qualified, get it through Medicare, Medicaid, get it through the insurance companies, and then put it on those. That would be sort of plan C, right? Plan A is partner with a big pharma. Plan B is partner with a distributor of pharmaceuticals. Plan C is do it on your own.
Okay. is it not better to raise funds for research, or is the intention to avoid dilution?
Is it? I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat it? It's kind of.
Yeah, so this person is just wondering if it's better to raise funds for your research, or is the intention to avoid dilution?
The intention is to avoid dilution at this point. So
Okay.
definitely don't want to go out and raise 30 million at a 30 or 50 million, $30 million valuation. We don't even want to go out and raise 20 million at this valuation. We just want to raise 2 or 3 million to get through the phase 2, announce the results, do a lot of IR and PR, and get the valuation up to 200-300 million. And then we would look at a 10% dilution to raise 30 million.
What are the status of your conversations with A or B for distribution?
It's very encouraging. We've had many discussions with Big Pharma, with A, and they're very encouraging. They're all waiting for phase 2. So there is a lot of interest. There is a lot of interest in CNS. There's a lot of interest in Alzheimer's. It's a very big space. And as Claudia pointed out, the agitation market is validated because you have that one drug, and then you have a second one, and then so there's a lot of interest.
Okay. I believe that is the last question that we have, which is perfect timing. So we're about at the hour mark. However, if anyone has any further questions, you are more than welcome to stay on for a couple minutes. We'll stay on with the team. You can just unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, we can conclude the meeting here. I do want to let everyone know that we'll send out this meeting recording to you, and we'll make sure that you have an introduction to the IGC team. But if you have any further questions, like I mentioned, please feel free to stay on for a couple minutes. Otherwise, this will conclude our meeting today. So thank you to the IGC team, and we'll be following up.